Hi, I'm James Zogby. We went into Iraq in 2003, and critics at the time said we were entering a country whose culture and society we did not understand. One of the enormous surprises was the person of Muqtada al-Sadr and the movement that he led. Who is Muqtada? What does he represent? And how powerful a force will he be today and into the future in the country of Iraq? To help us sort that out, we're talking to Muqtada al-Sadr's author, the author of the new book, Patrick Cockburn. Patrick is a Middle East correspondent since 1979. He works with the Independent in London, covered the invasion and occupation of Iraq from the ground for the past 5 years. His reporting on Iraq won him the Martha Gellhorn Prize in 2005, the James Cameron Prize in 2006, and this is his latest book. He's written 4, and this is his latest book. I want to talk about the book, Patrick. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
But first, one of the things that intrigued me about the book was the opening story. You talk about going to interview an aide of Muqtada al-Sadr and in a car stopped by a checkpoint.
Sure.
How difficult is it to cover Iraq? You've been there now for a number of years, but it's got to be hard getting around.
Oh, it's very, I mean, this story sort of exemplifies how difficult it is. And also, ordinary Iraqis have the same experience and often don't survive it. I mean, in this case, you mentioned, April 2004, I was trying to get from Baghdad to Najaf. The supporters of Muqtada al-Sadr, his militiamen, the Mahdi army, were holed up in Najaf and under attack from US Marines. And I was going there. I made a mistake, actually, which was I thought the danger was from some Sunni Arab, very tough Sunni Arab towns on the road. So I was wearing a sort of disguise. So it was a keffiyeh, red and white keffiyeh, an Arab headdress. Not because close to anybody would think I was an Arab, but just somebody in the distance through the car window might think, oh, it's Iraqis. But when I got there, there was a checkpoint, a Mahdi army checkpoint, young men, heavily armed, rather hysterical. They looked in, they tore off my headdress, they started screaming, American spy, American spy. They dragged me and 2 Iraqis with me out of the car. I thought, and the 2 Iraqis with me thought, that's it, they're going to kill us. There's tens of thousands of Iraqis have died in this way. Just at the last moment, one of them said, we better, let's ask our sheikh at the mosque what to do with these guys. And they took us there, and then things gradually got better. But I'm going to tell the story because it's dramatic. It also gives a flavor of Iraq, the constant fear that Iraqis live in.
You know, I do a television show that brings students from the United States in an audience in dialogue with students in Baghdad, and I found that over the 4 years since we've been doing them, it is increasingly more difficult to get students in Baghdad even to sit down or to come to one place if they're of different backgrounds. Sure. Given that, and given the fear, I go back to the question, how do you cover Iraq? I mean, it was tough in 2004, it's got to be tougher now. How does a reporter get around? I mean, back in the old days in Beirut, I used to criticize the reporters, I called them the Commodore hotel set. They'd sit around the hotel and talk to people, not going out. But do you get to go out and talk to them?
Sure, I do. I mean, you know, it's with difficulty, it's dangerous. What I do, I have a car. I sit in the back with an Arabic newspaper, so people can't quite see my face. Sometimes I hang a jacket on the window beside me, you know, as if I was trying to keep the crease there, but it makes it more difficult for somebody to look in. Then I have a second car following me, and the people in the second car, their business is to see, is anybody following us? And then we have hand radios, and if they think some car is paying too much interest in our movements, then we start taking evasive maneuvers, getting off the main road. We don't carry guns, because you're going to be attacked by kidnappers or anybody. It's going to be 20 guys with submachine guns. A few pistols aren't going to do you any good and might get you killed. But the key thing is spot trouble early, evade trouble. Then I move around Baghdad, but Baghdad is full of these great concrete blast walls, you know. It's also full of traffic jams. I'm always worried of being caught in a traffic jam for a long period. And then people notice there's a foreigner, somebody might be kidnapped there. There are different things. Sometimes I was in Mosul, the northern city of Iraq, a few weeks ago. It's because the deputy governor is a Kurd, is a friend of mine, and he was going back there. We went in an armed convoy, pickup trucks with heavy machine guns, guys with black masks. But halfway there, we had to change into military trucks, and with armored plate and armored windows, squint holes, and go on. I was saying to somebody there, he said, every time I go to Mosul and a lot of other places in Iraq, two things happen. One, people say, oh, it's better than last year. And second, we seem to have twice the number of bodies that we did every year.
Now, this is a book about Muqtada.
Sure.
But the first half of the book, actually a little more than the first half of the book, is not about Muqtada. It's about the context and the background. I was making the point in the beginning, we went into a country whose history we didn't understand, and you, before you get to the person who is the subject of your book, lay out the context, one of which is the Shia religion itself, its theology of persecution, etc. Why is it important, and what didn't we understand about Shiism? Before we get into Muqtada's family, what didn't we understand about Shiism that we should have known before we went in?
I think that from the moment the US decided to overthrow Saddam Hussein, the winners were going to be the Iraqi Shia. They're 60% of the Iraqi population. Muqtada currently leads the one mass movement among the Shia. And the Shia have not only a majority of Iraqis, but have a very distinct tradition, a sense that they are Shia. Their holy sites are all in Iraq, in Najaf and Karbala and Samarra, the holy cities. It's a religion generally of the oppressed, of the underclass, of descended from those who considered that the successors of the Prophet Muhammad should have been different than the way they are. The great battle of Karbala, when Imam Hussein was killed. These are restaged every year in Iraq. There are vast pilgrimages of 1 million, 2 million people, something you never see in any other part of the world. The battle is real in the minds of Iraqi Shia, and for instance, the American presence is often compared to the oppression of the Shia 1400 years ago by the Umayyads. And so it's very important to explain this background. In fact, you can't understand Iraq without it. And so that I thought, needed to be there. When one Iraqi Shia friend of mine said, to me, he said, the Americans think that Iraq behave as if Iraq was invented in 2003. But lots of things that determine what Iraqis do, what they say, is rooted in this long history of the country, above all, this religious history of the Shia, of the Sunni. Saddam basically ran a Sunni regime. What the Shia felt about it, they have a different leadership. These are completely vital to understand the country.
And then there's the family of Muqtada himself that sort of plays out this tragedy, this drama of persecution and sacrifice. His family is critical to understand who he is.
Yeah, that's why I spent quite a lot of time explaining this in the book. Everybody was surprised in 2003, certainly all the senior American leaders, that suddenly this guy, Muqtada al-Sadr, where did he come from? Why is he so powerful? He's taken over half Baghdad, he's taken over most of southern Iraq. And the reason was very simple, and most Iraqis could have told them, which was he came from a family of martyrs, the al-Sadr family, clergy. His father, Mohammed Sadiq, al-Sadr, had set up this mass movement under Saddam, which was religious revivalism, it was populism, it came from the poor, and it was nationalist, it was anti-American, but it was also anti-Iranian.